It's the most important and most material supply chain running across India, in every metro city, in every small town, in every village and in every district. It's the FMCG or consumer products and telecom distributors supply chain. They're the ones who make sure that no matter where you go in India, you get that glucose packet of biscuits if that's what you're looking for, or a SIM card if that's what you're looking for. And it's these people, 4 lakh of them, that are preparing for GST, facing several challenges that they're here to talk about. Let me quickly introduce on this GST countdown my guests today, starting first with Dhairashil Patil. He is the president of the All India Consumer Products Distributors Federation. I have Jagdish Shilani, I have Ajay Jindal, and I have Shyam Mundara. All 4 of them are distributors from across cities in Maharashtra. And then on my left, I have with me our very familiar tax expert, Badri Narayanan. Badri is from Lakshmi Kumar and Sridharan, a very well-known tax law firm, and he's here to help all the distributors present here today with any of the specific queries that they may have on GST. Several of them though, Badri, only the government will be able to answer, or GSTN will be able to answer. So let's kick it off, sir, with you first, Mr. Patil. Let's start first by tell me how prepared are the 4 lakh distributors that come under your federation for the implementation of GST on July 1st?
Yeah, first let me tell you that we wholeheartedly accept GST and welcome GST.
So do we.
And our distributors are very much prepared and very much enthusiastic to get into the GST regime, which is supposed to be launched on 1st of July. We have some concerns regarding the issues and the transition issues. So that is why let me thank you first for calling us here on such a short notice.
Okay, so can you start by telling me, are all 4 lakh across all cities in the country equally prepared, you feel, or do you feel right now it is more the people in let's say Mumbai, Delhi, the metro cities that are in a state of readiness, whereas in smaller cities and towns and villages there is still a lot of lack of information and preparedness for this?
Exactly. In A class towns and B class towns, most of the people are prepared. But into C and D class towns, there is still a knowledge gap and information input issues. So we are trying on the association platform to educate our members by taking seminars with companies and by taking seminars with the authorities and trying to educate the people. But still, as you very well know, tax consultants and lawyers are also helping us out for getting this knowledge upgraded. So basic issues are that most of the distributors are well versed with the technology. Everybody has a computer. There is only a certain part of distributors which are smaller distributors does not have this infrastructure. So for them it is right from getting into a computerization field then to this new tax regime.
Okay, so both are challenges.
Both are the
to be able to operate a computer and make sure that they can put all their accounts onto a computer, etc., and B, then to transition to GST. Okay, I get that. Second quick question. Distributors may be ready, okay, but what about retailers? Because that is an integral part of the supply chain network.
There is a very big problem there, I think.
Okay.
Big retailers, few of them, they have their own CAs and accountants.
Right.
As far as the small retailers are concerned, even in city like Mumbai, they have got nothing. They are all alone, maybe one employee with them. They do everything on their own.
Right.
So they don't know how to basically cope up with this kind of so much paperwork. Here they used to file 1 return in a year. Today
now
they have
3 every month.
3 every month for big ones.
Yeah.
Otherwise at least 5, 10, 12 in a year.
Right.
They are absolutely not equipped for that. Absolutely not equipped. They don't have that awareness. When I am asking, okay, give me your GST numbers, so many just don't know. Even in city like Mumbai, what is that? And when you tell them that it is mandatory, when it is mandatory, you will have to get it. Even if your turnover is less than 20 lakhs.
Yes, I was going to just come to that. Won't most of them fall into either the exemption, which is less than 20 lakhs, or many of them can avail of the composition scheme, which is now less than 75
Absolutely.
lakhs, right?
They can be below 20 lakhs.
In which case they don't have to worry.
Yeah, they can be. No, they have to worry. They have to worry. Basically, awareness ka problem hai wahan.
Reaching 20 lakh value is just 6,000 rupees per day.
No.
Very few of them will
fall in under 20 lakh because एक छोटा पान का ठेला भी अगर पकड़ोगे तो वो दिन में 4-5 हज़ार का व्यापार कर लेता है.
ठीक है.
So 20 lakh, reaching 20 lakh is not a big thing.
No, major issue is that they don't know that if they have got a board of a company and they are taking 500 rupees a month also, they need to be registered because it is a service, it is not goods.
Interesting. Okay.
It is not goods.
Ajay, you wanted to add something quickly?
I just wanted to say one thing, that retailers and distributors are not feeling a problem of GST. The problem is the ambiguity with the implementation of the entire process.
Okay.
Even if they are going to a CA or they are talking to somebody, nobody is actually able to guide them as to how and when this process exactly going to happen.
Badri, a bigger part of the burden falls on you for the next 20 minutes in this discussion.
One more thing I would like to add on retailers part is that if you see all across the India, most of the retailers are uneducated in our India. They are Chaudhries and all those kind of retailers, and they are not that much educated to cope up with this GST requirements.
This kind of paperwork, basically.
Because as of today, what they do accounting once in a year. They hand over their bills and sales bills, everything to their CA once in a year or maybe quarterly. How they are going to cope up with all these things? Because one has to be somewhat computer literate for GST compliances.
Fair point. Before I go to you, Badri, for what is the solution to this, let me ask you, Mr. Patil. The Federation must have put its mind together on this, right? You must have spoken to the companies that you work with, because those are at a fairly well prepared stage. They have the money, they have the expertise to get all the consultants and all the help they need in the world. So they are well prepared. The Hindustan Unilevers, the Amuls, the Godreges of the world are well prepared. You're saying in your 4 lakh also, 80 to 90% are reasonably well prepared. It's at the last stage of the supply chain, which is the retailer, which is where the big challenge lies. How do you fix that? You've got only 2.5 weeks now.
Yes, exactly. Now, in last 1 month of time, companies have assured the distributors whatever the input credits and the transition credits will be done, will be taken care by the companies.
Okay.
Now coming forward, few companies have gone and a step forward by saying that they will even reimburse the cost for the retailers as well. But the sudden panic in the market is that retailer is not ready to stock up. As the chaos is entire confusion is there, and that is why the inventory is falling down into the market. So if the inventory falls down in the market, entire supply chain gets suffered. So that is why companies are supporting, but still the recipient of this support is not in the state of understanding that actually what I have to do.
Yeah. How many retailers are there, sir? 4 lakh distributors. Andazan kitne honge?
12 lakhs, approximately.
95 lakh.
95 lakhs.
95 lakh.
95
1 crore.
How do you make sure 1 crore establishments, let me call them establishments, are ready on July 1st? For GST, given all these challenges that they have put out, and if they're not ready, what happens? Because if the last end of the supply chain breaks or is not able to make sure that they are implementing the tax, then do the other elements of the supply chain suffer because of that?
So so it's actually, as you know, most of these goods are MRP based goods.
Correct.
So on which there's a certain amount of tax which has already been calculated, a certain level at which they expect the goods to go. And therefore, the expectation is that the GST will go through the entire chain.
Yes. So if that last leg fails, what happens?
So luckily for the way GST is implemented, because you are a credit-based system. So if, for example, the last leg, it's say 10% of the actual value chain, then the loss of tax is going to be at the 10% level.
So it's only a loss at the government level, it's not an impact on the rest of the supply chain.
So rest of the supply chain, because of the last leg, with the B2C level, that's not going to be that much of an impact from a GST point of view, both for the government as also for the retailers, because they are going to be the ones who are not going to be the middle of the supply chain, where there's likely to be a break.
So the distributors will not be affected, and even if they are, the companies have promised them a reimbursement of any sort if they are impacted by the lack of preparedness at the retail end.
Sure. Actually, the problem that the companies are facing and is that the companies typically will have relationship with the big distributors, but don't have a privity with the retailers. So for example, what a lot of initiatives that the big companies are doing is to kind of look at their environment and seeing whether their ecosystem is prepared for it. So for example, a lot of focus is on the vendors that they are receiving the goods and services from, and a lot of emphasis on getting it to the distributors on time. The problem comes from the distributor to the retailer.
Correct.
So the distributor is not prepared, or if he is not registered, then, and if the retailer, for example, is registered for whatever reason, then it becomes a supply from an unregistered person, registered.
But that's not the
thing.
case.
That's
They're
it.
saying 80-90% of distributors
Yes,
are
yes.
registered, the
Yes.
rest will get registered
Rest
in the
will
next
get
2-3
registered.
weeks, so it's
So,
okay.
getting the-
it's only the retailer who is not
Who's going to
registered.
get
yeah,
this
who
thing.
is not registered.
So, and that's a
maybe.
problem, that is where the companies are not able to reach the retailers because they don't have a direct contact
What
with them.
happens now?
So what happens is that there has to be an outreach program from associations. So
And if
what-
that fails, July 1st,
in which case then there will be a loss of taxes to government from the retailer level.
that's it.
And
The
then
rest of the supply chain
The rest
doesn't.
of the supply chain continues.
Does that? Do you agree with that broadly? That
The
you are not going
losses
to get
are not
impacted?
only till the government level. If a retailer is not able to get his input credit, if a retailer is not able to get his stocks, if a retailer is not able to sell the stocks in the market at the rate what he was earning prior to GST, if he goes in for a composite scheme, he already loses 2%. If he's not taking, if he's below 20 lakh, again he's losing on the 18% or 28%, whatever the rate is. So his profit margin of the retailer is shrinking down.
But sir, that's
No,
a one-time
there
cost,
could
right?
be-
It's only the July 1st cost,
No,
right?
it will going to be the
Why they will revise the MRPs, they will revise the prices, they will ensure. So the way it works is what happens is in the FMCG sector at least, there are two types of compensation which is paid to the retailer.
Okay.
Either it's a percentage of the MRP, okay, or it's a fixed amount that you will get as a basis for it. So the amounts are fixed. There is no issue because then the MRPs will automatically get changed, wherein either the MRP will get revised upwards, or the MRP is not able to be revised upwards. Between the retailer, distributor, and the manufacturer, they will decide who is to ultimately bear the
or
weight.
get the lower
And
margin.
as a matter of industry, the manufacturers will decide that for this kind of commodities,
We'll take the
we
hit.
will take the hit.
Got
Okay.
it.
Where it is, therefore, on a fixed basis, it is there. Where the real issue happens is, for example, little medium and large retailers and distributors, where it's on a percentage basis. The minute it's a percentage basis, then the negotiation between the retailer and the manufacturer tends to be that if there's any increase in the rate of tax, then you also bear the loss, I also bear the loss.
Yeah.
Okay,
Exactly.
and that's where the issues come. So it again depends. But the way I see it is, for the companies, it's very important to keep the goods on the retail network. It's very important
Yeah,
to
well,
stock them.
otherwise how will consumers access
Exactly,
them, right?
not just consumer.
You could run into an entire quarter of very, very poor sales,
Not
which
just
after
that.
demonetization nobody wants to go back
And
to, right?
even if, for example, what I understand from the companies is, if for example the stocks are not on the storefront, even for as less as 10 days, customer preferences change.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
you and I
If
require
don't
that
get a particular
immediately.
brand of biscuit, I'll buy something else.
And
right?
once
How many days will I
you
wait?
buy it and then you are happy with it, you will
Yeah.
not go back to it. So there's a lot of
Which is why
stickiness.
companies, I think, have promised to compensate them. if
Yeah,
there is
so
any
there will
loss,
be a
because no company
compensation.
wants to be in that
Yeah, so there will be a
position.
loss. So according to me, the key thing is going to be how much is the company able to increase its MRP, because
Right.
they're all competitive products, shampoos,
Yeah.
groceries, these things.
Increase in MRP only if the retailer is not registered, is what you're
Retailers-
saying, right?
Retailers
But again-
registered
again
or
the-
unregistered, doesn't matter, because your entire supply chain now has to be based on a revised rate of tax.
Huh.
Okay, so
But why would you have to increase? You heard the word increase the MRP. Why would you have to increase if in some categories, in fact, the tax rate has
but
gone
they-
down?
they may not-
if it is
Percentage of
reducing,
margin will change. No?
They may
So-
not be
and
able
then
to do
there is
the
again
MRP
one
change.
clause of anti-profiting.
Anti-profiteering.
Yes, I was just
So
wondering how
anti-profiting
will reduce
will not allow the companies
To
and
increase
presently
prices,
increase
yeah.
prices.
So
The company,
margin
the
will take
government
the hit.
wants
Ah,
Yeah,
the
margin
company
pass.
takes the hit or you all take
Yes.
the hit.
Yeah, the
Someone
government
has
wants
to
pass.
take the hit on their margins
And you are hopeful
initially
that
at
the
least.
company will take the hit.
Yes,
yes, sure.
Otherwise, our profit margins are so thin that we cannot.
We
take this
cannot.
hit.
They also know.
Neither
companies
the
also know.
retailer,
In fact, I
neither the
would say
distributor.
government is earning more than us by collecting the GST.
I hope
It
that
happens
message is
always.
reaching across.
Yes. It
happens always.
Okay, so just one very quickly to wrap up this one talking point, which is that you said 80 to 90% of the 4 lakh distributors in this country that distribute FMCG and telecom products are registered on the GST network. How many retailers, in your estimation, are registered?
Approximately 30 to 40%.
Yes.
So 95 lakh retailers is what you told me.
Yes.
Of them, only 30 to
Yes.
35 lakh retailers are actually registered.
Yes.
The remaining are not registered.
Not
yet.
It's just a guess number.
Guess.
We don't have the data. at
There
all.
is no,
Yeah, well, I understand. Estimation.
yeah,
Andazan. Andazan, right? As
Andazan,
they
yes.
say, right?
The reason is
Estimation.
why we had run an activity in last few weeks for collecting the GST number from the retailers.
Right.
And the response what we got, we have taken out posters and banners and went to the retail shops and asking for the GST numbers. Where we came out with, we got the information that the majority of them
Have
are
not taken.
waiting for the composite scheme and they have not applied yet to the GST. This was the scenario till 30th of May.
Okay, but now we have more details on the composition scheme. So are things moving faster now?
That we yet have to collect, because we are very hopeful, since we have educated the retailers that they have to opt for these GST numbers, wherein our more worries will be taken care of.
Right. Okay.
So unregistered retailers are actually going to cause a lot of problems for distributors.
Yes.
Reason being, we have to make sales or to particular retail outlet who is registered unregistered.
Correct.
There could be some kind of ceiling to how many unregistered retailers can I sell.
But there is no ceiling
There
right
is,
now.
as of now,
There is no ceiling.
As of now, it is not.
But why are you imagining problems?
As of now,
where there are
it is
none?
going to happen.
No,
Anything can happen, madam.
But you know, it's a fair point. I
No.
think it is so alien, this tax system, that everybody is a little worried that worst case scenario hoga to, right? It's that.
Yeah.
नहीं,
The main-
point क्या है, मेरा 100 रुपए का बिजनेस है, मैं 30 रुपए रजिस्टर्ड को कर रहा हूँ, 70 रुपीज इज गोइंग
To unregistered.
Unregistered.
So there is a huge gap.
Yes.
और ये 70% सेल जो होगा ये कैश में आएगा. Now that is linked to the cashless जो इकोनॉमी की बात कर रहे हैं, तो अगर 70% मेरा
मोदी साहब ने आपको सबको डरा दिया।
Absolutely.
getting 70%
Demonetization.
there is obviously going to be
across the
problem.
system.
Yes.
So
In fact,
while it seems
I would
funny
like
on
to
this
quote
show,
one
it's not funny in
incident
reality.
also. We had taken a new TIN number this month, in fact last month, but till we are not getting GST number against that TIN number. They are saying window is not open.
Window is not open. In my case, what has happened
So
is,
what will happen? The people who had got new TIN numbers in last 2-3 months, the window is not open.
What happens
How,
in
how
that
they
case?
will register
So
for
you
the
wait
GST?
for 1st of July. They're going to
But they won't get into any trouble, is it?
So last week probably we will see the registrations opening up, and then they will have to apply for it.
in the transition from old to new, some cases are there where their PAN number is mismatched. So that is again stuck.
Okay,
That is-
cool. So this is the saga of registration. But there are more important challenges that will come their way. For instance, you will have the issue of connectivity,
Yes.
because you are going to have to upload at least 3 forms or 3 returns in a month, each one of you, right? I want very quickly for you to summarize for me what the experience has been in trials so far. Let me start with you, Ajay. What has the experience been so far as you all try to connect through your GST Suvidha provider to the GSTN to be able to test whether the system is working fine or not?
As of now, we have not been given the link to try it.
Oh, you're saying the APIs are not available?
No.
So there are no trials, sir, that have happened?
No trials at the user level, but there are companies who are providing softwares are been doing trials on this,
Okay.
wherein the speeds which I spoke to you
So
are
240 to 244 kbps is what you said?
yes.
Okay.
So in rural areas where छोटे-छोटे गाँव खेड़ों में connectivity is very low. So वो connectivity अगर नहीं होती, that is why we have also suggested the council to give us an offline submission
तो वो तो बनाया
option.
हुआ है ना GSTN ने ऑफलाइन?
हाँ अभी बना है।
हाँ, ओके, ठीक है. So you're saying solutions है, लेकिन वो बहुत धीरे-धीरे
धीरे-धीरे
मार्केट में
आ
आ
रहे
रहे
हैं.
हैं. So
और
you have had
awareness
no
नहीं
way-
है.
Awareness नहीं.
Awareness नहीं.
Okay.
Education is required in
Okay,
this.
so in this case, then I'll defer to you, Badri, because a large number of your corporate clients will have done this testing. How is it going? Very
So-
honest answer.
Very honest answer, it's not been very great.
It's not been very
Not
good.
been very great because there have been trials of
Right.
this thing, and we all know from whenever we talk to the client that there have been problems in uploading GSTR1 form. They
Right.
have been uploading in getting the information. People have not seen what GSTR2 is going to look like. And we look at a very small sample which is being looked at. So that happened last month
Right.
when they tried to do that. So at that stage, there are issues. So what I understand is the GSPs have been testing extensively their APIs. So for example, when he's talking about the connectivity, he's really talking about connectivity to GSP.
Correct.
Yes.
So GSP to GSTN, I believe there have been lots of trials have gone.
And how have those done?
So some of them have done well, some
Okay.
of them not so well.
Yeah,
So there's
because
a lot
the
of
fear
feedback.
is that right now it's all in test phase, so the load is very, very manageable.
Yes.
But the moment you go to full load, let's say starting 1st of August when all the return forms start getting uploaded, what happens then? If you're not able to upload in good time, if it takes you 8 hours to upload a
And
form,
the-
what is going to be the
problem
outcome for
also
you?
is that as a country, we don't upload our returns to the last day, last hour. So
Yeah.
that's going to happen. That's a normal thing to do because everybody is going to scramble, and
Yeah.
it's going to be last. So problem for me, and it happens even now. For example, in Maharashtra when they try to do the J1, J2 matching, there was so much of problem which was there.
Yeah, I can see all of them
So-
nodding,
Yes,
saying,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
J1, J2 is one state
Huh.
between supplier and this thing. They're not able to get
Match
it, match it, and then able to do it. So what we are now going to do is across entire India at one go. Okay. So I really have a lot of issues from the GST and network hopefully working. And I feel, and I don't know how it will ultimately turn out. If this sample space in the next 15 days, 20 days doesn't work out, they may have to look at an offline solution for another 3 months, 6 months, and then take it from there.
If you see the history of tax filings in India,
last day.
many times due to flood, due to something, the dates are postponed. So how it will be dealt in GST?
Right, because if the date is postponed, your input credit, everything relies on
Everything
that.
will be
So
postponed.
the entire cash flow of the system is reliant on that, right?
And government has given very short period to match everything.
Right.
At least we feel that it should be more, at least quarter.
It should be basically a quarter and not monthly.
If GST starts in July, our first return should go after 3 months. Likewise, because you know these kind of natural calamities, how you are going to deal with?
Well, those will be few and far between. First, we have to make sure that the system in itself, the network is robust enough to manage
But
this.
trade as such in India is not ready for monthly returns.
So that we will have to prepare ourselves.
But
No, now we can't move to a new taxation system
yes.
and say now we've
It
never
can
done this before.
happen over a period of time, not immediately.
But we don't have an option. At this point in time, we have to move into this and then take it from there.
Yeah.
Real concern is whether GSTN will be ready and be up and running. And ideally by this time, you should be testing your data, not just the big corporates, but the small merchants.
And that is not happening. And that is not happening.
End
End user testing is not
which is
happening.
the more larger in quantity. See, corporates are already well versed with the network, with they have the infrastructure required. The people who are primarily doing it for the first time are supposed to be having a trial.
And more testing शुरू नहीं हुआ है.
More testing नहीं शुरू होना.
You take a
Government
walk.
में थोड़ा सा time देना चाहिए था. At least a trial return for May or a trial return for June should have been uploaded in case parallelly.
That's a good idea.
There is
वो
a
हुआ ही नहीं. वो हुआ ही नहीं.
possibility that they can have a trial in June as well.
जुलाई में. जून. जुलाई में. जून
जुलाई में ट्रायल कर सकते हैं.
जुलाई का जून का.
हाँ जुलाई में. But तब तक तो actual हो. Well, okay. Let's see.
No, July.
Now the time is gone. Actually, the time is gone.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just one more question here in this issue, and that is, if distributors themselves are struggling with this whole issue, कि ये चलेगा कि नहीं चलेगा, what is the situation at the retailer level, sir?
God is great.
Yes.
No, that cannot be the answer. Right?
no,
95 lakh retailers, you tell me.
They are mostly least bothered. What happens?
They are not aware. They are
not aware and not interested to go and to have this entire thing on their head right away. Just seeing a way to get out of it.
And Menaka, other
But
thing
there's no
also
way to
is
get out of it, no, sir.
Composite scheme and finish it.
no. According to Menaka, we are looking at an ideal scenario. Around day one, everybody is going to be ready. Let's get ready for the fact that everyone is not going to be ready on 1st of July. What's going to happen is that over the next, I know you must be thinking what is going on here.
No, my question is this. I understand that maybe everybody will not be ready. I also understand that the government will be kind and say, chalo, theek hai, एक महीने के बदले 2 महीना लग गया चलेगा. My question here is what happens to the, how do you deal with the cash dependence that some of these businesses have? How do you deal with the cash flow bits? Because if your credit matching is not happening or whatever the technical language is and it's not happening on time, how many months will the companies keep finding funds to, to finance the trade? I mean, you're talking about 4 lakh distributors, 95 lakh retailers. Companies also don't have endless pockets, right? At the end of the
But
day.
I think the way it will work, Menaka, is that I think the companies will really be looking at distributors as their primary persons with whom they're going to deal with.
Correct.
Okay? Take the retailers, though it is 95 lakh retailers, ultimately the goods of 4 lakh distributors are going to them first.
Correct.
There's no direct going.
Okay.
So till you catch the distributor, and I think
so
a lot of
suppose
this
let's say
thing.
that the companies
So the
deal with it
distributor,
at
I think
this
they will be
level.
able to deal with that. My sense is that effectively speaking, 50% or 30%, 30 to 50% of the retailers are never going to come into GST because they are going to say that I am less than 20 lakhs. You government, if you feel that I am more than 20 lakhs, please come and catch me. Okay, that's only one set will be there. But truly speaking, the way to deal with them is to treat them as the consumer itself.
But it cannot be, that they are claiming that they are less than 20 lakhs when they are not less than 20 lakhs because all their records will now be
Our
available.
records will go to GST
So
and
they
then it will be
know.
compiled.
No retailer can fudge this now because now they will know that who are, if Mr. Patil is sending out to 25 retailers, they know exactly what the numbers are. No,
because if we are making a sales under a composite scheme, we are not providing the GST number of that retail outlet, neither the name of the outlet.
No, composite scheme there will be a GST
Shall be
number.
making a sale, a composed scheme under unregistered retailers.
Wasn't the whole idea of GST, one of the purposes also, that because everything gets computerized and every record is taken care of, you're expanding the tax net and you're making sure that those who are not paying taxes today either pay taxes or at least register in the tax net.
You're absolutely correct. The whole premise of GST working out properly is to increase the tax base. Once the tax base increases sufficiently, then over a period of time you can reduce the rate. That's the whole purpose of GST.
So how are you saying that retailers will say, "No, you won't, I'm not more than 20 lakhs, you come and check if you want to"?
Because it's very difficult at that level to catch them also.
No, but won't it be easy through the distributor records
not necessary.
to find out?
For example, what happens is that a retailer will give one in the HUF name, one in the husband's name, one in the wife's name, one in the children's name.
No, that will not be possible because
that won't be possible.
Because GST would be registered against PAN would be registered against Aadhaar card, so you will not be having multiple PAN cards.
No, but for example, there are 3 people purchasing from you, 3 different Aadhaar cards for using that, then they will manage it.
Okay,
that's how
so
it will
we'll
work
know
out.
that. Okay, last issue that you all had raised to me, Mr. Patil, was this, that you are worried about the transition issue, primarily what happens to the stock that you have when you go into July 1st. Why don't you explain to us what your key concern here is, and let's see if Badri has a response for you.
There are 2 things. Now primarily as the rates are out and the stocks are there with the distributors, there will be put into 3 compartments. First thing is the stock, which is VAT paid and with the distributor. Now the rates have been assorted. For a single company there are 3 rates. Some is in 5%, some is in 18%, some is in 28%. The products are also assorted. There is also a scenario where it was previously costing 12%, now it is 5%.
5%.
So there is a reverse credit. So what is going to happen on the reverse credit? Second thing is the transition was done on 40-60 basis. 60% was
18%.
Yeah.
18% or more.
Yeah. So 60% was input credit given by the
Deemed credit on
Deemed
excise.
credit.
On excise.
deemed credit.
We don't blame you, sir, the rules just changed last week. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Exactly. So companies now, FMCG companies have started giving, most of the companies have started giving excise invoices in turns to reduce the matter later on, so that the 60% money which was going to be blocked would be immediately released through the input credit. But that will not be the case scenario again for the retailer. Stocks which are lying here for 6 months or 1 year old, that is a problem. We also have a process of taking damaged goods from the retailer. So stocks sold till 30th of June. What is going to be the scenario again coming back?
Okay,
So
Badri, we are running towards the end of our time, and I still want to get comments from each one of them. So very quick answers to each of the issues that Mr. Patil has raised.
So one of the key problems that everybody is facing is transition stock.
Right.
The reason is because they've never paid any central taxes in the form of excise, and therefore they are now giving that. According to me, the practice of giving by the companies, corporates, the excise invoice is very good for distributors because distributors taken care of. But between
It is only few companies. Just 2
No,
or 3.
all of them are
Not all of
taking
them.
it.
No. Just a few companies. Say
companies.
2 or 3 companies, which I couldn't name.
But how does the excise invoice help? Can someone explain to me?
So what happens is that today the law section 140 basically says that if I have an excise invoice on which excise duty is being paid, and it is in the hands of a trader, then on the basis of excise invoice I can take input credit of the
so basically you get
excise
credit
duty
for the tax you've already paid on those
on
goods.
excise duty, which you never got before.
Yeah, which you didn't get before.
So some of the corporates are saying we'll give you excise invoice, you take credit on the basis of that. No problem at all
Hopefully
about
that
that.
becomes a practice with all the companies.
It may not be.
It is not.
It
It
cannot
won't.
be
It
for
cannot
the
be.
reason
Why?
that you cannot take excise registration immediately. So what happens? A company manufactures, in the factory they have a excise registration. Then they move it to a warehouse. They may or may not have an excise registration there.
Okay, got it.
Or and even if they do, they have CNF locations in every state because of the way our VAT system works. Okay, that's a clearing and forwarding this thing. There definitely they will not take excise registration.
Okay, so there may be companies who may not, despite best intentions, be able to provide excise certificate.
Majority of
So
them.
what happens in that case?
So in that case, what I understand is there's a negotiation happening between the associations and the companies for giving some compensation for them and taking certain goods back. I don't know how detailed it has been and how
Is that
much
true, sir?
has
Is
happened.
that your
It is
experience?
not possible. It is
That's
not
not
physically
possible.
possible to return the entire goods.
not
They are
return.
forcing us to take the stock right now.
No.
Because they're fearful, all these stories that we've been doing, saying, retailers are destocking, that's why, right?
That's correct. So
Yeah.
problem
Retailers
is-
are destocking.
They are.
I know, but for the same reasons, right?
Yeah,
They're
for the
also
same
fearful
reason.
कि क्या होगा,
It is
ना?
basically
Yeah.
fear, which is fueling this destocking.
Yeah. So there is no way out from this.
So there's no way out. It has to be a combination of being efficient in taking credit of 60% and the company is coming back and saying, okay, I will give you this much of compensation for keeping the stock on this. This is a loss that you're making. It has to be a negotiation.
And just one quick question, because you see we also cover markets and businesses and profitability and all of that. If they have to compensate all these listed FMCG companies, if they have to compensate them, is this going to mean a dent in profitability for them?
So according to me, I was yesterday with the top CEO of a company, and they have said that we are not going to base our predictions based on my FY 17-18.
What does that mean?
That means that they are all expecting that this FY 17-18 is going to be it's going to be volatile in terms that they will
so you're
not.
telling me in polite English that profits will be hit?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, fine. Okay, all right, cool. So that's one problem. I think there was one other problem that Mr. Patil raised with regards to transition stock. Right?
Yeah, I would
So
just like to
another thing
add,
is
most of the companies have said, okay, they will reimburse the difference, loss difference to us.
40%.
They've said that.
Yeah, they have said
40%.
that.
So either they give you an excise certificate or they reimburse.
They
the difference.
reimburse. Most of the companies have said that.
That's what I was saying. So
तो फिर आप problem आपको नहीं होगा सर shareholder को.
नहीं retailer का
Problem
होगा.
retailer major issue है.
And madam, problem हमारे साथ भी होगा because that reimbursement will come after lot of paperwork. It will require 2-3 months to get that reimbursement
But
from
ये
the
reimbursement
company.
आप retailer को के साथ share नहीं करोगे?
नहीं, how
Possibility
it will
is
come
stock.
at
Claim करेगा
on
तो
our
होगा.
margins only.
नहीं
no,
नहीं
ma'am?
ये
I didn't understand.
the
retailer का stock का क्या होगा फिर?
No,
नहीं,
the
that is the
differential
problem.
that the company is going to pay is on
Our
our
stock.
losses,
Our
not for
stock.
the retailers.
Not for the
What
retailer.
happens to the retailer?
So
That is
that
why
is
they are
how,
destocking.
that's why the retail is destocking.
The
Destocking.
companies will not reimburse the retailers.
No.
Yes, just 1 hour back we have received a
One
mail from a
company has,
company
told
saying
us.
that they are willing to also compensate the retailers for their stocks.
Actually,
so some companies are waking
Yeah.
up to the problem now.
Madam,
Yes.
but
No, but
I-
that is for the purchase of June 2017 only.
Yeah,
Only,
it's the
yeah.
purchase of
See,
June
the problem is,
2007.
Menaka, what happens is
it is
just
not manageable.
Very
See,
10
10
seconds.
seconds. What happens is companies have a very good idea of how much they have sold to the distributor. So
Right.
they have a fairly good idea of what is it.
Oh, yeah. They don't know
Many
what the
companies
onward
don't know
sales
how
are.
much is the actual stock which is lying at the retailer. There is no
On the
real way
shelf,
of figuring it out.
basically.
Okay?
Yeah.
So companies are always fearing whether they are going to undercompensate or overcompensate.
Got it.
Okay, so that's where
Not
the real problem with the
manageable.
retailer is happening.
Okay,
right
but
now.
they will get stock back, no?
No.
It's very
in
difficult.
exchange of that compensation. So it's not as if they're going to end up being gypped of money because they're buying that stock back, right?
No. This is
They'll
not
buy the stock.
no.
They'll just give a reimbursement.
So they're just putting money into your
Oh,
pocket,
dear. Okay.
saying that the
At
difference I will pay.
distributors
So
level,
this-
they will need a lot of paperwork, audited reports and everything.
What is the month
At
of
the-
July
at-
going to be like? You tell me
At the,
that. Do some
at
forecasting.
the end of the line is हम लोग व्यापारी है, व्यापार तो करेंगे ही करेंगे.
Okay,
So
super.
come what may, we will
We
be
will figure it out.
Yes.
That's the.
I would
that's
like
the
to
risk.
add, जुलाई में शायद कुछ नहीं होगा. जब अगस्त में रिटर्न फाइल करना पड़ेगा
अगस्त
तब
में
प्रॉब्लम
होगा.
चालू होगा.
अगस्त में
जुलाई में
होगा.
कुछ नहीं होना है.
Okay, August में actual problem होगा.
Actual
ठीक है,
problem
sir.
August में
Then
चालू
you
होगा.
have a standing invitation to come back in August and tell us what the situation is like. Thank you, gentlemen, to all of you,
Thank you
and
so much.
Badri, thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
so
always responding to questions. Thank you, sir, and
Thank
thank
you.
you very
Thank
much
you.
for watching Bloomberg Quint. We will
you so much.
continue our coverage of GST as we head towards July 1 on GST Countdown.